Minister. He was very, very nice, I will say. Very nice. We had a couple of very nice conversations, very good. But I don't think it's appropriate for me to get involved in their election.
Now, that is the end of a nearly 2-minute-long answer to a BBC reporter's question about whether Trump had any prediction on the outcome of next week's election. Trump replied that he did not want to do that, but in an answer to a question about tariffs on Canada, he repeated his claims that Canada is not viable without U.S. trade.
As he made clear once again today in the Oval Office, President Trump, he is trying to break us so that America can own us. Yeah, that's the answer. That's the answer, Donald. That will never happen, ever.
I've read Marx. I've read Engels. I've read Das Kapital.
The world is run by Trotskyists.
Hardcore Trotskyists.
How great an anti-American Marxist!
They're controlled by Trotskyists, as you put it, and these are the most evil, sick human beings on the face of the planet.
You're listening to the Left Opposition Podcast with Chris, Ben, myself, and from the bottom of a well, Joe. How you guys doing?
I just want to thank the local firefighters who were able to throw a phone line all the way down to the bottom of the well where Joe is. Yeah. So to the Firefighters Union, the FFIAD, Local 2043, we thank you for your efforts. Joe, right now, he's down in a well, but thank you, Joe. We appreciate the efforts. Joe has a broken leg right now, and he's on a ton of opiates. So fortunately, we're going to get him out. But while that's happening, we ask that you send any extra donations to patreon.com/the Left Opposition Podcast to help relieve those efforts. So thank you, everyone, for listening.
We're sending our love down the well.
All right.
We call it Comrade Lassie.
There we go. Jimmy's on the way. All right, folks. So we have a barn burner of an episode for you. We're going to talk a little bit with some current events, and then we have a special guest at around in about 15 minutes. Ben M, I'm not going to butcher his last name, will be on to talk about his article about this country. It's called Canada. Don't know if you've heard about it, but it's in the news lately, and apparently Aaron's from there too. So we have a lot to talk about there, but first, current events. Aaron, what have you got for us?
The Pope has been assassinated.
Jesus, by J.D. Vance, right?
Right. Yeah, within hours of meeting J.D. Vance, His Holiness,
Jesus. Oh my God.
The Rock of, I don't know. Is it called the Rock? What are some names for
the Holy See?
For the Holy See, that's what it is. Yeah.
Yep.
I was gonna say The Rock, but that's like Dwayne Johnson. But
I was gonna say, he's not doing he's not doing the people's elbow anymore. On Dare Scratch, old Scratch there. But
so Grand Dragon, I believe.
Wow.
So honestly,
that's
though,
intense.
to be fair to Pope Francis, if I had to meet JD Vance, I'd probably want to leave this world too.
Oh my God, that guy sucks so bad. Yeah. Oh man.
But in all seriousness,
man suffered.
So there's been a myriad of quotes and quotes about the Pope, talking about how important it is to help the poor, and that's all well and good.
Yeah.
He's definitely paid lip service to socialist and communist movements,
labor unions too.
Labor unions, sure, probably.
Yeah. There's a few quotes there. I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, right?
One of his last spoken words was speaking out against the genocide. But does this make him? Is this something that the left should revere? Is this a person doing the bare minimum of speaking out against the genocide, even as a world leader? Like, is this something that we should? Is this a man whose life we should celebrate?
Yeah.
And I don't think so, because this is the leader of an institution that is also a part of a state apparatus of control. Catholic Church has been part of massive numbers of anti-communist movements, especially in Latin America, where Pope is from.
Yep. Also some sex scandals for the last couple hundred years as well.
When they're not too busy, molesting little boys, and covering it up, they are, destroying communist movements.
Kind of like the Republican Party.
So at the time of his pontiff's election in 2013, he was Archbishop of Buenos Aires. We already noted the shadows of his past, according to this is Marxist.com. These included his passive silence in the face of the crimes of Videla's dictatorship in Argentina, including the torture of 2 priests deemed subversive, as well as the kidnappings of the babies of missing mothers. Collusion with the Argentine regime is not an unfounded accusation. If we remember that between 73 and 79, Bergoglio was not a country parish priest, but the highest authority of the Jesuit order of the country. Even after the end of the regime, he refused to expel priests convicted of pedophilia, such as Grassi or Bishop Storni. He never agreed to open the archives of the Argentine church for trials relating to crimes against humanity. He succeeded Ratzinger, the Pope who had no problem mourning the death of working-class enemy Margaret Thatcher and shaking hands with the heads of state as the right-wing Zionist Netanyahu, the emblem of the conservative bourgeoisie Trump and the ultra-liberal Milei. The latter 2 leaders, who for months have directed frontal attacks at the pontiff's pacifist statements, are now flying to Rome for his funeral. The whole of the ruling class will gather to mourn at his grave, since for them he is not a class enemy. He spoke a lot about the environment, which is obviously very important to young people. But at the same time, the church defends the legitimate right to private property and that entrepreneurial activity is a noble vocation oriented towards producing wealth and improving the world for all. Yeah. So he's the so-called Pope of the poor and marginalized, who out of humility will not be buried under St. Peter's Basilica, wasted no time over the years shifting the College of Cardinals into his favor so that 80% of currently electoral prelates were appointed by Francis.
In there is with JD Vance. Anybody, nothing against, no, I don't care, I'll say it. If you're a born again or you convert to Catholicism in your anywhere past your 20s, I don't trust you. I think you've lost your mind. And I'm ex-Catholic. I was raised Catholic, by the way.
Yeah,
all
me
right,
too.
Irish Italian.
As a renounced Catholic, like this.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, I was forced into it.
Yeah.
Right. But like if someone's like JD Vance, they convert to Catholicism at what, 39? Why?
Yeah, you're obviously crazy.
Something's wrong with you.
Something's up with you. I'm not saying I don't trust you. That's not fair. What's wrong? What's going on? Like, I get it. Like, this is just what my family did.
Converting to like Catholicism. When if you're grifting, all the money is in Protestantism,
evangelicalism,
evangelical stuff,
the
like
mega
Jordan,
churches,
like Jordan Peterson and Russell Brand.
Right, right.
Like the it's so obviously phony because like as soon as Russell Brand announced that he's born again, everyone was like, oh, he's going to be dodging some sexual assault charges reol soon, isn't he?
Oh, by that point those were already in the air by that 100%, point. But like this is him absolving himself of those sins. See, that's what he's doing. Oh my God, it's such a grift and it's so pathetic.
Who marries an Indian woman and then converts to Catholicism?
Right,
like,
and then he won't defend her.
Oh,
yeah.
Hey, honey, I think you're a heretic. Well, anyway, off to work. Mwah.
Shit. Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, this is pathetic how some people are doing it. But yeah, there's another guy in Trump's all these arch reactionaries like convert later in life, which I don't get it. But okay. Sure thing.
So it's a good bit here in this article. We'll post the article in the show notes. Gramsci observed almost a century ago the church has branches all over the world as one of the greatest enemies of the revolutionary proletariat on an international scale. It's willing to join any reactionary alliance as long as its own interests are protected. Today, the Vatican is one of the few existing theocratic states, an absolute monarchy emblematic of the survival of elements of the old feudal society within the capitalist system. The real estate holdings to the Catholic Church worldwide amount to more than 2 trillion euros. I think it's the symbol for euros.
Yeah, I think so.
And in Italy alone, the value of its properties exceeds 42 billion. This is not to mention its ownership of countless artistic and architectural assets, which constitutes 70% of Italy's cultural heritage. In Rome, 1 in 4 tourist accommodations belongs to the Vatican, as do more than 23,000 properties of various types, from vacant buildings to healthcare facilities. I toured the Vatican when I was in Italy in 2012.
Really?
Yeah, the Vatican is like, picture like a Costco in an airplane hangar covered in gold.
Yeah.
It's wild. It's like, my
awesome.
God.
I've been there too, and that's a great description.
That's
like,
amazing.
Like the Catholics really love their gaudiness.
They love gold.
Yeah,
that was the thing.
Yeah,
so See, you think Trump would just fucking love this guy?
Just on the artistic stuff.
Look at all this gold. Yeah, and when I toured the Vatican, they did mention that the Vatican City is like the largest or second largest art collection in the world.
Yeah.
Sure, that's not to launder anything.
No.
A contender with the Louvre. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Is it Louvre or Louvre?
Louvre.
Louvre?
Oh, yeah, I think so. Louvre.
The Holy Roman Church also acts as a bastion of reaction on the ideological level, calling for equality among men, but discouraging the questioning of the capitalist order. For this institution, which is extremely hierarchical and governed by men alone, private property is sacred, hunger is solved by charity and almsgiving, poverty is to be accepted because it is a moral virtue, and the search for a more equitable society is postponed to heaven. A pontiff with less obscurantist rhetoric would not be enough to make him an ally of those who want to build a world free of inequality, free of superstition, and the slavery of profit on this earth. Well-written article.
Yeah.
That comes out of the Italian section of the RCI. Not bad.
Awesome.
In other news, while we wait for Comrade Ben, I wanted to address this real quick. This is from BBC. Supreme Court in the UK. Shout out to our British friends, all three of you who listen to this.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
Thank you. We love you.
Good day, mate, as I think they say. Yes.
Supreme Court. So the Britain's highest court. They back the biological definition of a woman. So it's been a long running legal battle, and court sided with the campaign group For Women Scotland, which brought a case against the Scottish government, arguing that sex-based protections should only apply to people that are born female.
Right.
So basically, it's written in law now. If you're a sitter downer, you use the female bathroom. If you're a stander upper, you got to use the fucking. well, no, that's not what I meant. Like that's how it should be. But like, what's crazy is this is not in defense of women. Women, like especially cis women, are going to be victims of this. Is what I'm trying to say. Because like women who are over 6 feet, women who might have masculine features, short haircuts, they're going to be the ones that are going to be policed and targeted and harassed.
This
and
is happening and stuff. And women are being followed into bathrooms by weirdos who like tuck their shirts in their dungarees and stuff and drive those stupid trucks around. Like that happened like a couple towns away from me, where this guy got arrested at a Walmart, like you're not like, and like he demanded proof. Which holy shit. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. What kind of proof? What are we talking about?
Yeah. You can. Well, he's following him into the bathroom. So I mean, it's just like, okay, who put these? Like, you're giving a lot of weirdos a lot of power to start doing stuff, and that's all we need. Holy fuck.
Especially in the fucking UK, like they've got, they talk about throwing stones from a glass house. Like, these motherfuckers are some of the ugliest bastards I've ever seen. Half of these turfs are like the most butch-ass women you've ever seen in your life. And they're like, no, it's not proper for a lady to not have the traditional... Like, what are you talking about, stupid?
Man, we gotta get you proper mic.
Oh my god, yeah. Well, he's stuck in a well, folks. If you're just tuning in, Joe is still down in a well with only a telephone connect, and the telephone is from 53.
We've got a can and a string.
We do. That's it. So that's it. And once again, the International Association of Firefighters, Local 1369. Thank you again for trying to get Joe out there. Maybe we'll give him a proper mic soon enough. So
they ran that cord all the way to Aaron's place.
That's impressive. Wow. That's good. And Aaron, does any maybe British celebrities have any views on it that you could think of? Are there any quotes in an article
I love
from someone who's made this their thing?
I love the CBC. They just love their fucking celebrities.
Yes.
Hey, let's not talk to any potential victims that this might affect. It's like, let's see what a celebrity think.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go interview J.K. Rowling. Literally, just out of nowhere. It's like she had nothing to do with this fucking case at all.
Celebrities don't love them, folks.
Who voted this asshole in charge? Like what? Every time this happens, now we got to talk to this fucking has. Okay, great.
So J.K. Rowling, because thank God God, someone reached out to her, writes, it took 3 extraordinary, tenacious Scottish women with an army behind them to get this case heard by the Supreme Court, and in winning, they protected the rights of women and girls across the UK. We've already showed how this will actually endanger women. Trans people will also continue to be victims of violence as they are far more likely to be victims of violence than to be violent themselves. They just want to go use the fucking bathroom and they're not bothering anybody. Holy shit. Like, chances are if a transgender person is using the women's bathroom, they're using a stall. If they're also using the men's bathroom, chances are they're also using a stall. So who the fuck cares? Like, seriously.
Who the fuck cares?
It's
Just
insane.
wash your hands at the end, and that's as far as I care. That's it.
Apparently, this was celebrated by some communist groups.
Oh God, that's great.
I'm sorry, I can't
wait to hear from the Stalinists.
I think they deleted some of their tweets, maybe not, but like I saw some folks reacting to the communists in Britain, the Communist Party of Great Britain. Brackets Marxist Leninist.
Oh boy, they have statements.
So their statement. It's not a statement on this specifically. This is the only thing I could find at the moment.
Okay.
So they're peddling a book called Identity Politics and the Transgender Trend. Where is LGBT ideology taking us, and why does it matter? So they've already lost me at calling it an ideology, the transgender trend. It's trendy. It's cool.
Did Ben Shapiro write this article?
He wrote the foreword. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, seriously.
Right. Yeah.
So they're whining about criminalizing hate speech. We have to accept the concept of gender fluidity. And a lot of these groups will argue that, like, well, there's a binary between men and women, and therefore the relationship is dialectical, and therefore there can be nothing in between. And it's just it's an incredible argument. The other argument that folks like this make, and the ACP, are good friends over at the American Communist Party.
Yes.
Also makes this argument.
Dr. Haz Eldin, of course. Yes.
Yeah, they also make this argument that, and we've responded to Noah as well, who has said, like, well, corporations fly the pride flag, therefore this is a bourgeois ideology. LGBTQ issues
liberals. I didn't even think of that. That's
they celebrate Labor Day too.
You guys, you won. The banks have floats in the Pride Parade. Therefore, LGBTQ issues are ruling class issues, and we should be opposed to them on those grounds. That's what they're arguing. It's crazy.
What's so crazy about that, Aaron? I think he's making a good point.
Once
they give $5 or more to a group, therefore it is bourgeois. That's it.
That's right. The other problem I have is the less horrendous and less groups will describe. They'll take on trans issues and generally are on the right side of it, but I think they're still very clumsy in their rhetoric. I've seen some of this posting from the RCI. I think this is, I would like to make a comradely criticism. My former group, they often refer to stuff like this, like these legal battles of transgender issues, as like a distraction. They're always calling it a distraction. No, we need to focus on working class issues. And I think that's the wrong approach as well. I think that's reducing it down to something where it sounds dismissive. Like, I'm sorry, like transgender people using bathrooms and that being policed, that is not a distraction. Culture war stuff, right? It's what they're calling a distraction. I would say it is a direct assault on the working class, because
is segregation a culture war thing?
Exactly. We got to stop calling it that.
Why are we focusing on race right now? Shouldn't we be talking about the workplace? There's
this thing about how, like,
be a thing.
Because of Doge, corporations now are taking away out all of their DEI programs.
Oh yeah, that thing.
They're firing all the black workers, their women workers, any perceivable minority. They're just gutting across the board. And Doge is doing the same thing in the American government. And you have Marxists, ostensibly Marxists, that are like, oh, we're not going to, DEI is stupid. It's liberal. It's liberal solutions to problems that shouldn't exist. We should just focus on class struggle. And I'm like, I think you're halfway there, because the problem with gutting all of this stuff is that you're not replacing it with something better. And therefore, by getting rid of these things, it gets rid of the very few protections, as marginal and almost useless as they are. You're getting rid of them with nothing to protect them now. And as Marxists, we should be opposed to that. We should be opposed to corporations getting rid of their DEI programs unless it's being replaced by something better. If a workforce formed a union, for example, and the union decided, we want the best workers, we're not going to focus on DEI, that might be something. But then, like, unions should also, because it's made up of the workforce, of the workers, it should also take into account, like, not every voice might be represented. You might want to reconsider that, that sort of thing. And that's where like union leadership should step into and ensure that, like, space is made for the stuff like that. I don't know, I'm just kind of going in circles here. Ben, welcome, Ben M from the Marxist Workers Group.
We are now, for our listeners out there, we have a crisis on our hand right now. We have one podcast, but with two Bens. And here's the thing. We're not going to identify who's who. So you, the listener, sharpen your ears, listen, pay attention. We're not going to be repeating this, but there are two Bens. It's up to you, the listener, to figure out who's who. So with that being said, Ben, whose name is more complex than mine, which is McItaly. All right, Ben, thoughts on the transgender situation with England and how shitty the Stalinists are. So anything you want to say, go for it, comrade.
Hey, comrades. First time caller, long time listener, as they say.
Hey!
Really happy to be on the podcast. I've been listening since episode 1.
Oh, wow.
You're the one. Oh, right. Finally. There we go. I knew we'd find him eventually.
Somebody listens to us. It's crazy.
And I'm used to there being multiple Bens. There were 3 Bens in my class in elementary school, and now I'm on the Labor May Day committee here in Toronto, and there are 3 Bens on that committee too. So it happens. It was a biblical names were popular in the 90s. So there you go.
Yep.
Don't I know
Gotcha. Hey, Ron.
Yeah, got a Joseph here.
Yeah. St. Christopher, I guess, right?
No, we all have biblical names here. Yeah.
No. Yeah. All right.
But yeah, I totally agree with what you guys were talking about, what Aaron was saying about how a lot of Marxists, not just Stalinists, treat trans rights as sort of a culture war thing to be avoided. The slogan is class war, not culture war. It's like, well, what if the struggles of oppressed groups like trans people are part and parcel of the class war? The capitalists don't just attack trans rights as a distraction, but to divide workers and also to uphold traditional gender roles and the bourgeois family. Their reactionaries are afraid that the bourgeois family and the gender roles that come with it is under attack, and the family is the basic, like, building block for under capitalism, the main unit of that does social reproduction. So when there's a perceived attack on that structure, the reactionaries have to demonize it. So it's unfortunate that a number of Marxists, not just Stalinists, but indeed me and Aaron's and Chris's former group, the RCI doesn't quite see that.
Well said. All right. Yeah. I mean that's the thing too. And the example I keep using, because people are like, well, this is a distraction, and I'm like, I'm in my union. I'm like, well, what if people were going, well, women's issues aren't important. What, women aren't being paid. Our contract is going to make it so that women get paid less. That's stupid. Like, that'd be insane. We wouldn't do that. Like, we wouldn't let discrimination go on in our unions anywhere. So why the fuck are we allowing it anywhere else? Because some people, we get some reactionaries in my union, it happens, and it's like, why are we talking about migrant workers? They're not even supposed, like, they're workers. That doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. They work too. Like, I have more in common with a migrant worker from a different country than an American CEO billionaire. Like, class is what brings us together. And within that class, as I'll put it all together, is that, like, There's going to be trans people. There's going to be nationally oppressed people. There's going to be people who are being, subjugated. So we divide, like you said, what Ben said, they're trying to divide us on these things. And we can't buy into that bullshit. This is what they want. And they want, like you said, social reproduction, make the family. But an attack on one of us is an attack on all of us. And this is really something that I think, you're right, it's not just Stalinists. I've seen other groups that really just, they're not like, it's not that they're engaging it, but they're just going, don't get involved. If the KKK was lynching black people, would we be going, well, let's not get involved? That's, that it's insane. If it was the 50s and we're talking about that, but no, this is one thing that we should all be united on, and defending oppressed peoples like trans people should be something we fight for.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate, like, a lot of DEI policies, like, there's a lot to be desired, and I do have a lot of contempt for a lot of bourgeois identity politics, the way it's like enforced.
Right.
But like,
we should have more female CEOs.
Oh my God!
No,
of course.
Yeah. We need more. We need more executives who are non-white. Like, no, we don't need any executive. Yeah, that shit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the stuff that we agree on. But like, I just don't. I don't think it's productive to call these things distractions, even though as much as they may be, right? Because like they do this so that they can like justify like gutting, like, for example, like teacher, like there's a big push to get rid of these programs in our schools. They don't want to teach gender ideology to children. They think it's going to turn them gay. And we all know it's the chemicals in the water. But anyway, that's another point. That's beside the point.
I mean, we're teaching woke science now, and I don't like that, because we all know it is the chemicals in the water. Duh.
Where was I going with this? But like, when they assault our programs and try and get rid of gender ideology, what they're actually coming after is teachers' unions. And so we need to be vigilant about this sort of stuff. We can't just, we have to be, as Marxists, as supposed leaders of the movement, we have to be front and center on this stuff.
I agree. And I think also I just wanted to add that, this idea that these issues are distractions, it has a name. It's called economism. It goes back all the way over 100 years ago. Like they were struggling against this idea that the only thing that communists should be concerned about is these dollar and cent, workplace issues. And that's all we really have to add. And, Lenin was really opposed to them. And, that's why he had the idea of a good communist being the trade unions, the tribune of the people. That's what it was, who can address all of the oppressions in society, and, can fight for the entire working class as a whole. And I want to just reiterate too. This type of stuff like that, like starts splitting, like, it's like, oh, well, we'll just like, let them, abuse trans people. It's just like it disintegrates that like bond of solidarity that we're trying to build. And if you're a communist and you think that it's doing anything other than that, you're just a total fool. So thanks.
Yeah, it's lib shit. It's like Democrats going, well, of course the Palestine thing's going to happen either way, but we need, we need whatever like bullshit tax credit Kamala Harris is going to do. So,
does Raytheon have enough people of color on the board dropping the bombs? That's what I want to know. That's it. Do we have enough, trans people who are in the bomb manufacturing? Like, that's the liberal shit. Like, that's missing the point. Good Lord.
Yeah, and I find that with this sort of economistic dodge of the issue, it's like, oh well, neither the trans activists nor the transphobes. When you try and dodge the issue like that, when the issue becomes a real concrete question, oftentimes the vulgar Marxists, the economist Marxists, end up on the reactionary side. Not to dig more on our former group, but when they had a bit of a conflict within their section in the former Yugoslavia, they said, oh, we don't support either side of this culture war. Whether trans women are women or whether trans men are men is a question of no interest to us. Oh. But then when it came to the actual question that they were intervening on as to whether young people should have access to gender affirming care, the leadership said, "Oh, that's out of the question. Of course, they shouldn't. This is only a question for adults, even though the science very clearly shows that there's a much greater risk of denying youth the access to this medicine than there is of them taking it." It's like, no, don't follow the science. Just follow vibes. If you're born female, you have to become a woman. If you're born male, you have to become a man.
That's
No
like
actual
saying, like,
investigation.
how could a young, well, you can't be gay until you're 18. It's like that's what it sounds like to me. The same, like, well,
Exactly.
when you're an adult, you can become gay, but until then, you're gonna be kissing girls, buddy. Like, that's insane. Holy shit. Wow. Oh my God.
So I think from the way you describe it, Ben, it really sounds like that their position on these things is like undeveloped at best and kind of stuck in the past a little bit. And I always give full credit to the trans and indigenous comrades in the org who were the ones that educated and radicalized me. And I think as time goes on, the trans membership of these orgs will eventually rise up the ranks and kind of maybe pull them into the 21st century a bit. On that note, speaking of 21st century politics, I don't know. That was a bad segue.
Hey, I like the segue. Keep going, Aaron. You got
there
this.
Is so yeah. There's soon to be the 51st state. We're having an election soon.
That's
perhaps
wonderful.
it'll be our last
I thought
one.
you were like 12 provinces, but now you're just going to be one. Welcome aboard.
No, I'm practicing.
You're gonna have school shooting drills pretty soon too. Tell your kids, look out.
I'm practicing my American accent by stuffing 2 cheeseburgers in my cheeks.
And you will dump out all the Tim Hortons, or all your Tim Hortons will be turned into Dunkin' Donuts.
No, from my cold dead hands.
That can be arranged. All right. I will start a civil war over this Tim Hortons debacle that you're on the wrong side of history, Aaron. Okay. All right. God damn it.
Canada runs on Dunkin' too.
I know. Aaron just hasn't had real good coffee before. He's never once had Dunkin' Donuts, and he lied about the time he had it in Boston. It was delicious, but all right.
All right. So the last time we talked about Canadian politics on this pod, I think Justin Trudeau had just resigned amidst his inability to deal with one of the dumbest people imaginable, Donald Trump, and the Liberals were also severely suffering in the polls, and it looked like our more conservative group, the led by Pierre Poilievre, they were well in the lead to take on a super majority in this country. But Trudeau stepped down, and the more sensible adults kind of stepped up and got replaced by a guy named Mark Carney. Carney is he's a banker. He was part of the cabinet, I guess, that led Canada through the recession under Harper, which is our last conservative. Prime Minister.
Who's a real man of the people is what you're telling me, huh?
Oh yeah, he's a real man of the people. No, he's a guy. He's played both sides, and that way he always comes out on top, and it's worked out for him.
Ooh.
That's Always Sunny reference.
That's Always Sunny reference. All right, nice.
So here to talk to us more about this upcoming election, which is very soon. I don't remember the exact date. I've already voted. Here to talk more about the upcoming election is our comrade Ben from the Marxist Workers Group. Ben, good to see you.
Nice to see you, comrade.
Okay, so what can you tell us about our new prime minister, and what are we looking at here with the election coming up? You published an article recently. It was excellent. I was able to read
it. We got a chance to read it over. It was really good. I want to say, us on the Left Opposition podcast, we got a sneak peek, folks. So we got this a day early. One of the perks of having a podcast, you get to read articles a day early. Okay. It was impressive.
What's our website?
It's marxistworker.ca.
.ca. That's so much clearer. You guys only have to use 2 letters to get to stuff. We have to type in 3. That's awesome. So, yeah, there we are.
The article
I'll be asking the dumber questions because I'm an American who doesn't really know much. So I apologize to our Canadian listeners who may be asking extremely elementary questions. Aaron will ask the smart questions. Chris will answer ask the American one. So
the article is Canadian election amid a patriotic wave. What are the tasks of the Marxists? Oh, that's right. So I explained this on our last, or at least a couple episodes ago, that there's There's this
Oh,
anti-Trump
yeah, this.
sentiment, which is really also is what helped propel the liberals to like front state. Like they're probably going to take, they almost certainly will take a majority again. Like they somehow just bounced back better than ever. Trudeau was absolutely sinking this party.
It was bad.
Trump being a buffoon, threatening tariffs and annexation, I think really helped. So, but like, where do Marxists stand? Should we get behind the liberals? Should we vote for lesser of two evils? Should we join our Canadian brethren and buy anything with a maple leaf on it as part of our national patriotic duty? So the options on the ballot this election, they leave much to be desired. So what is to be done? I love the little.
I caught that too. Oh man,
love how you slip that in there.
That's good.
I'll always do a little Lenin reference when I can.
Give a little Lenin as a treat.
Good, it's a tasteful way to do it.
Okay, but, so we're taking stock of the election. Where are we standing? Where are we at here, Ben?
Yeah. So as a lot of your listeners, I'm sure know, Trump has made a game out of taunting Canada. He referred to Trudeau as Governor Trudeau. Talks about Canada as the 51st state, and he's launched a global trade war, which hits a ton of countries, but Canadians are particularly hit by the tariffs on aluminum and steel and cars. So this has prompted a huge anti-Trump response in Canada. Almost all something like 90 or so percent of Canadians have a negative opinion of Trump. And you would think with this anti-Trumpism everywhere, that would prompt the major parties to adopt some good policies like policies that are good for immigrants, like pushing back against the sort of deportations idea, some pro-trans legislation to push back against Trump's anti-LGBT policies. And you'd think that at least the NDP, which is basically our Labor Party, would be proposing ideas to save these jobs, like by nationalizing the big automakers, most of which are U.S. owned anyways, but they're laying off hundreds of workers. Hundreds of workers have already been laid off in the aluminum industry. So you'd think that this would provoke some sort of like progressive response from the Canadian parties, but actually the opposite's been true. The major Canadian parties are chasing Trump to the right. Apparently, the answer to Trump's American nationalism isn't internationalism, but Canadian nationalism. And Canada, it's a small imperialist country, but it's an imperialist country nonetheless. And so we've seen all sorts of like rally around the flag, Canadian chauvinism, blah blah blah. Even though just a couple years ago there was a whole reckoning with what Canada is and what the Canadian state is in terms of our colonial founding, you saw widespread support for Indigenous land defenders, defending their land against Canadian oil pipelines that were going through their land. So there was all that movement a couple years ago, but that seems to be gone. In fact, there's new plans for like new pipelines across Canada that will certainly violate the national rights of Indigenous people and Quebec. Most Quebecers oppose pipelines on their land, which are likely to have oil spills. This new guy, Mark Carney, as was laid out, he's a big banker. In fact, he's a central banker. Harper hired him on to lead the Bank of Canada, and then he flew off to Britain to head the Bank of England. So even though he's never been a member of Parliament in Canada, he's been very much part of the political establishment, part of the as you know, you guys in the U.S. have Wall Street, we have Bay Street. He's very much been a part of the Bay Street establishment for a long time, and he's come in to sort of be the big savior, the guy who's gonna save Canada from Trumpism. Well,
I always look to bankers for help. That's awesome. I'm really looking. That's a good thing.
So what is he planning to do to save us from this trade war and this threat of Trumpism? It's like, well, I already mentioned the pipeline, but the first thing he did when he got into office was to slash the carbon tax, do exactly what the conservatives have been saying for a long time. And even though the carbon tax isn't like a very good environmental policy, it's largely symbolic. He wanted to signal to investors that, you know, he's not going to do anything even symbolic to help the environment. He went on to
just real quick, Ben, for those who don't know what the carbon tax was and what it was meant to do.
Oh, yeah.
So basically, they added a tax onto gasoline. So the consumers, taxpayers, the working class pays this carbon tax.
A massively regressive one, it sounds like,
to disincentivize them from using gasoline. But it's a big country. We have to drive.
Do you have a lot of trains up there?
No,
I don't remember seeing many when I go up there every so often. So no trains, no alternative means to get around, huh?
And so the point was, if you meet a certain income threshold, this is the means tested brilliance. If you meet a certain income threshold, you get a rebate come tax season. And the idea is you use that rebate to buy more energy efficient products. I bet upgrade your air conditioner or something. Like that was the idea, and that's what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
So no
never really worked
rail or anything, which would actually
ask the average Canadian what'd you do with your carbon tax rebate? Like, I don't know, bills, groceries, like nothing. It didn't work. Even it didn't do what the thing it was supposed to do. And
that's what it's supposed to do. That is
the slogan on the right for years was "axe the tax," referring to the carbon tax.
Yeah, right.
Now I wonder if this was more of a political ploy to take wind out of the sails of the conservative, is to basically enact conservative policies. Now, normally that's the Democrats' job in the States, is to just enact right-wing policies so right-wing people will come and flock to us.
Bingo.
But we do have a ostensibly left alternative. So the strategy of running to the right of the conservatives on lots of stuff might actually work in the favor of the liberals. It's crazy. We live in backwards town. So one question, Ben, I was going to ask you, and I don't have an answer for this, but maybe I just did. But in Trotsky's transitional program, he talked a lot about how when society becomes polarized, people flock to the left or to the right. And the way he put it was, the conditions for a revolution are not just right, but they're rotten, and it becomes a crisis of revolutionary leadership. Because there is no left-wing leadership, people will tend to flock to the right. In this case, and that's exactly what we are seeing under Trudeau. The conservatives were poised to win a huge majority. What do you think accounts for the surge in popularity of the liberals? I mean, we would consider them right, but I think most Canadians generally consider them center. Usually the center, in a crisis, the center becomes discredited. But how is it that the liberals made this huge comeback? What do you think?
Yeah, well, as you were saying, what's the best way to beat the conservatives? Just adopt all the conservative policies, right? Yeah. I mean, I don't think that's why Carney's winning. He's in some ways the man for the moment. I mean, I remember in an interview, someone was asking Carney, like, "Oh, you're this big central banker guy, this big globe trotter. Aren't they gonna paint you as a globalist?" And Carney said, "Well, maybe that's what we need right now." And I thought that was kind of funny, but I think it does speak to a sort of sentiment that we just need a steady hand on the till. We need someone who we can rely on, someone who's been around, who's solved crises. If you can say that his governorship of the Bank of England during Brexit was solved. But his sort of I'm not going to bring up this culture war stuff. I'm going to be the steady hand on the till seems to be attractive for a number of people. But
he's your Joe Biden, basically. That's,
yeah.
I'd say, as an American, it seems like, I know that Trump guy and his allies are crazy. Count on, like, I think that's what I'm hearing. I think it's a good point. I'm not gonna do anything wild. I'll bomb Palestine. Don't worry. I'll do that, and I'll keep giving tax cuts to the rich, and that's gonna happen. But I'm gonna be this, like I said, the steady hand. That's, I think, what people want. Like,
Yeah,
okay,
I think that's a really good. I think that's a good point, Ben. I think
yeah,
it's,
this is your Joe Biden. It just sounds like
status quo.
Right.
He's a relative calm voice in the insanity that is happening in the U.S. right now. We just got through COVID, and now this bumbling idiot just got elected again. I think people just want something safe. They want a safe bet, and I guess they're going to Carney. So you talked about the carbon tax and how he's running to the right. What else is he running to the right on with conservatives? Get you back on track.
Well, Chris, you mentioned bombing Palestine, arming Palestine. Carney is not just doing that; like he's continuing the Trudeau government's policy of selling weapons to Israel. The Canadian Parliament passed a motion that is supposed to put a sort of arms embargo on Israel, but it only applies to new contracts, apparently. So current military contracts Canada has with Israel are going through. And Carney's going further than that. He said that he wants to bring in what's I've heard been called like bubble zone legislation, where that essentially bans Palestine protests if they're protesting like a religious institution, something that's something like a synagogue or a Jewish community center, which of course, Palestine protesters haven't been protesting people praying. It just so happens that Zionist real estate deals to settle the West Bank and these real estate shows trying to get people in the Jewish diaspora to buy real estate on stolen land in Palestine. Some of these real estate shows have taken place in synagogues and in Jewish community centers. And so naturally, Palestine protesters are going to protest these Zionist events, these pro-Israel events. But Carney wants to make that a criminal offense to protest them or block people from going to them. I mean, God forbid Palestinians try and block someone going to a real estate event where the real estate is their land. So this is pretending to be like a pro-Jewish, like a pro-Jewish law to criminalize these protests, but it'll actually make Jews like myself less safe. It'll make my parents less safe when they go to synagogues, because it will further conflate. It'll encourage Zionist organizations, pro-Israel organizations, to hold their events in synagogues and further conflate Judaism with Zionism, which is definitely not the case. So yeah, he's tacking to the right on Palestine. And we were talking about trans rights before. This whole question of class war, not culture war, and how that framing often leads people to the more reactionary position on the culture war. Well, that's the case with Carney too. He says, we don't want a culture war like Justin Trudeau with his talk about trans rights and stuff. We don't want a culture war. We want a class war against the working class on behalf of Bay Street. But it turned out that even though he sort of stayed away from these quote unquote divisive questions in the leadership race, when he was forced to confront the question of trans rights, and specifically whether trans women should be allowed in women's spaces like bathrooms and sports, he came down on the side of the far-right reactionaries. He said that in principle, yes, he does believe that women's spaces should be for quote-unquote biological women, to which the right wing means people assigned female at birth. So he's going further to the right than Trudeau on Palestine, where Trudeau is arming Israel's genocide, and going further right on trans rights and the environment He scrapped federal reviews of mining projects so that mines can there are fewer regulations so that they can do their projects often on indigenous land, poisoning indigenous communities. And
I'm just saying, for our 51st state, you're very American with your approach of trashing tribal lands to strip mine stuff. So I'm just saying, if you're running for candidate of 51st state, congratulations, candidate. This guy's going to be a great fit. We pollute and strip mine every indigenous land we can. Before you went on, there's one thing from your article I did want to, as an American, I don't know this, but you said here, even though a number of liberals signed on to the Vote Palestine pledge, Carney falsely claimed that Canada has already an arms embargo on Israel, essentially giving his party permission to support an arms embargo in words but not deeds. What is the Vote Palestine pledge? I didn't. What is that about? If you could explain that a little bit to our American audience.
Yeah. So Vote Palestine is this initiative started by the PYM, the Palestinian Youth Movement. That has a list of 5 demands, the biggest one being impose a 2-way arms embargo on Israel. And the idea is that they want all candidates. It's not a partisan movement. Candidates can sign on to this pledge saying that they support a 2-way arms embargo on Israel, addressing anti-Palestinian racism, funding Gaza relief efforts, ending Canadian involvement in Israeli settlements, and recognizing the state of Palestine. So candidates can sign on to this pledge and say that they support Palestine, although a lot of the especially the liberal signatories to this pledge are supporting a leader who is sending arms to Israel. He falsely claimed, he said that Canada has an arms embargo on Israel, but Canada doesn't. Canada is producing weapons to send to Israel as we speak right now.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up, because I didn't know what that was, but that is shocking. No new weapons that's it, which is like no new contracts, which
right.
That's like if I said I'm going to quit drinking beer, but I'm going to start drinking whiskey after. I didn't stop drinking. I just changed what I'm doing. Like, it's just, that's insane to be
right.
like,
It's like if at Alcoholics Anonymous they said, well, we're everyone should like not go to any new bars. You can go to your home bar.
If you go to your old
fine,
bar,
but no new bars.
Yeah. You're not mixing your drinks. You're just gonna drink just Budweiser the whole or Labatt Blue the whole time. That's all you're gonna do. Okay, so that is, and he's serious. Like, there's no one's pushing back on. I mean, that's insane. Okay,
there's also
in his party. Even people who signed on to the pledge aren't calling out the arms shipments to Israel. They're not calling out the bubble law. They're not calling out, and unfortunately, this point isn't on the Vote Palestine platform, but delisting Sammy Doon from the terrorist watch list. So ironically,
who I don't know who that. If you want to just explain who that is to us.
Yeah, so Sammy Doon, they support the rights of political prisoners held by Israel, and they've been listed as a terrorist entity in Canada, and they've been cracked down on. So we have some political prisoners of our own, but not a single liberal candidate has spoken out against this.
Wow. Okay. Jesus. These are dark times for you guys. Well, okay. Thanks. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. We don't have a First Amendment here either to protect our speech.
Is there like an equivalent to it, or is it like
I don't know, Bill of Rights? So there's another trend that there's something unique to Canadian elections that definitely differs from American elections, is this idea of strategic voting, and it's been really popular the last few years. I don't know, Chris, if you're familiar with it. There's whole campaigns to it looks at every riding across the country, and where there's
you use that term. What is it? Is it riding? What's it called?
Riding, yeah.
I
It's like
don't.
it's
A
like
county
what's it's the equivalent of like a district.
Oh, okay. All right. I
Okay.
got you. Thank you.
Yeah,
All
they're
right.
called, yeah.
Appreciate
So we
this.
call them
I'm going
ridings
to be the
here.
most American. Pretend to me as your average American.
It's all good.
Who really, really, really should know. Like you know so much about American politics. I feel
I know way too
I'm just like a
much.
third grade civics class for me, and I'm or grade 3 civics class. See, I know the lingo. Okay, but thank you. Once again, our audience are a bunch of smart people. I'll be the dumb one tonight, but thank you. All right.
So it looks at every riding in the country, and where polling shows NDP have a better chance than, even if you're a liberal supporter, you should vote NDP, and vice versa. Unfortunately,
Okay.
the way it works, the strategic voting, 95% of the time, it's usually just vote liberal. And this is a huge reason why NDP might get 44% of the vote, but liberal just squeaks by with a little bit extra. And like NDP will net they just do not get ahead. And they've been bleeding support. I think Jagmeet Singh needs to resign. But yeah, strategic voting, it's in full effect. It's very similar to this Vote Palestine thing. And again, it's a way for people to feel like they're getting organized and they're getting involved when it's just you're just picking a new boss, same as the old boss sort of thing. Because at the end of the day, these are bourgeois parties and they represent bourgeois interests only. And that's something that I'm on the education committee for my local district labor council, and I proposed we're all like, even a month ago we met, and I'm like, we need to talk about what's next after the election, because bourgeois wins and bourgeois losses are not working class bourgeois wins and bourgeois losses, right? And that was more in preparation in the event of a Polyev win, but the same rings true for liberals. Their wins and losses are not ours. The working class has no dog in this race.
Right.
And you might think NDP. Now there's a slogan here that I've seen. I'm not super familiar with this. Vote NDP with no illusions. Ben, can you walk us through what that means?
Sure. I mean, I'll mention that I totally agree with you that there's nothing strategic about voting for the class enemy. And I think that the shift to the right that we've seen with the liberals is a perfect example of why that doesn't work. Like, if the liberals know that you're going to vote for them anyways, they might as well just chase conservative voters. But I guess somewhat luckily, here in Canada, we do have a third major party, the NDP, which is our traditional Labour Party. But they've seen a massive collapse in the polls recently. They're at like 19%, even just a couple weeks ago, or like 2-3 months ago at the beginning of the year, and they've collapsed down to like 8% in the polls. They're at risk of losing all of their seats in the Canadian Parliament. They might squeak by with like 3, 4, or 5 or something. But even though they have this massive opportunity to be this alternative to the banker Carney and the bully Polyev, I think that this drop in the polls is totally their fault. Like, for the last 3 years or so, from like early 2022 into 2025, they propped up the liberals with a confidence and supply deal. They made a deal with the liberals that said that if you support these policies like dental care and pharmacare, we'll prop you up, we'll support your budgets. And this deal turned out to be incredibly discrediting for the NDP, because even though the liberals passed some stuff, I mean, some stuff that was already in their platform, like pharmacare. Now they're covering I mean, not all pharmaceuticals, but like 2 drugs that was in their platform. And now I guess the NDP can say that they got the liberals to implement their own agenda. Dental care, which is a very partial program that doesn't even affect most Canadians. So the liberals did like small things to keep the NDP on board. But even though they made these small concessions, living standards for the average working class Canadian has gone way down, especially because of inflation. People can't afford groceries or rent. Housing costs have gone up. And since the NDP is propping up the Liberal government, now they're going down with the ship. people are looking for change. I mean, some people are looking for a steady hand on the till, in which case, why not do that continuity? Why not go with Mark Carney? But some people are looking for change, and they're not seeing that change in the NDP. They're seeing that change in the Conservatives, in Pierre Poilievre. So I don't think that that trying to help the NDP salvage this election, which is probably going to be devastating for them, I don't think that does much other than reward them, or at least not punish them that much for doing this, for doing what we used to call a popular front with the bourgeoisie, with the capitalists, trying to ally themselves with a non-existent progressive capitalist. And it turns out that when you do that, it just discredits all parties involved.
Yeah, it always seems like, it's not like the liberals move to the left. It's always the socialists or the social democrats move to the right in those arrangements. They never move, like, it's not like you're going to see it's not I think it just makes you look inauthentic. It's like, all right, so we have the honest people who are liberals, or the people that say there's like social democrats, but they act like liberals. So why not just vote for the liberals? What I think they've just discredit themselves by their actions. Is if that's a way I view it. If that's what you think, do you think the same way, or?
Yeah, and sorry, I didn't get to Aaron's point about like vote NDP with no illusions. That's been something I've heard from a few left groups. We've dunked on the Stalinists and the Grantites. Now we have to dunk a little bit on the Spring Mag people and the Socialist Action people who raise this slogan of vote NDP with no illusions. So it's like, oh yeah, we have no illusions that the NDP will actually do what's necessary to get us out of this crisis caused by capitalism, but we have to vote for them anyways. We have no illusions that they'll change things, but we have to vote for them. And my question to that is why? If you know that they're just going to prop up the status quo, if you know that they're not going to address these fundamental issues of capitalism, if you know that it's just going to lead to the Conservatives being elected down the line, why are we voting for them? And some people say like, oh well, like my local candidate is actually really good. Like my local candidate cares about the community. And I will say, Aaron, your local NDP.
I was going to get to this question.
Yes,
Damn it.
Yes,
Yep.
Your local NDP MP was the only NDP MP across Ontario, to my knowledge. I checked a bunch of people's Twitters to get the receipts. Your MP was the only one who called out the Ontario NDP's expulsion of Sarah Jama for sticking up for Palestine. Every single other MP was totally silent about it. And also every single NDP MP, including the Hamilton Centre MP Matthew Green, none of them opposed the Popular Front with the Liberals. All of them thought that was fine. So I'm thinking why are we supporting people who are just making the NDP irrelevant?
I think Matt Green knew that his seat is pretty safe here. That's why he was able to kind of stand up to the NDP a bit. Unfortunately, there was no Marxist Party on my ballot, so I ended up, full confession, I voted for Matt Green.
So you had no illusions.
At least he's nominally pro-Palestine.
Right. I mean, if there's another one on the back, I get it. We're going to comment into this is a thing too, kind of about my reflecting what I was saying about, popular front. It's always the liberals are always moving for the right and the socialists go with it. It's libs only move to the left when they feel heavily threatened. I do agree with that statement too, but in coalition, as we'd see, like I'm kind of right now, my thing is like Spain and the Spanish Civil War right now. Like, or if you look at the labor movement, liberals will move to the left when they're threatened by an outside entity. Massive strike waves led by socialists and communists in the 30s. The liberals gave up massive concessions, but they weren't doing it because they were in coalition. Like even the Stalinists had their third pair, their ultra leftism. But that does happen. Like if there were an outside left party, which there should be in Canada, I mean the NDP they're institutionally with the liberals, but also Ben, I know your group is one of them, but is there any, getting into your article, which I did like, what's your take on the Communist Party of Canada and the other party, the Marxist-Leninist Party of Canada? What now? They running? I know the CPC. I never heard of the MLPC before. You read your article, but are people moving to them? Are they doing good? Are they just like, hey, we should vote? What's your take on those two?
Yeah, I mean, I've already dunked on like 3 different Canadian socialists.
Keep it going, baby.
So
this
far.
is the Left Opposition podcast.
Yeah, this isn't the Left Unity podcast.
No, it's not. I mean, I'll say here that I really respect what a lot of these groups are doing. I mean, I just dunked on Spring Mag. I think they have some good takes. Socialist Action has some good stuff, and I'll say that these 2 parties that are registered political parties, they're running in the election. I think they're doing a lot of stuff right. They have identified that there's no there's no sense supporting the status quo. They're just going to betray us. We need something else, and I don't know if they're going to grow their vote share this election, but I imagine they will, just because so many working class people, lefty people are really not enthused by the NDP. I'm guessing a lot of former NDPers are going to vote for the Communist Party of Canada, the CPC, or the Marxist-Leninist Party of Canada, MLPC. So I think they're probably going to grow their vote share this election. But okay, this is where I get into some of my critiques. And the major one, I think, is the popular frontism. The same point that I made about the NDP. It seems like both of these groups want to do. I listened to the press conference with Liz Rowley, who's the leader of the Communist Party of Canada, and she said that the best outcome of this election would be a progressive bloc that includes communists. And so we know the NDP isn't going to win the election. So really what that means, and in Canadian parlance, progressive usually means liberal or NDP. So what that means is that she wants the liberals to have a minority government supported by New Democrats, the NDP, and communists. So they kind of want to make some of the same mistakes as the NDP, unfortunately, forming a bloc with the non-existent progressive capitalists. I will say that they do have some good stuff in their platform. Like they talk about putting key sectors of the economy under public ownership and democratic control. So that's really good. They are talking about socialism and how capitalism can't solve the crisis that we're in. Although I think that the CPC also has some policies that maybe don't reflect their current membership. I think especially some of the new people they've brought in through their interventions in the Palestine movement might have changed things. But the CPC's platform talks about a 2-state solution for Israel and Palestine based on the 67 borders. I mean, a lot of us in the Palestine movement have identified that the so-called two-state solution is essentially something dangled in front of the Palestine movement, like, oh, please don't rebel. We'll give you a state, not your land back, but we'll give you some of your land back if you just don't rebel and negotiate with us. So it's used, as sort of fake diplomacy while Israel gobbles up more Palestinian land. And so the Palestine movement broadly has rejected the two-state solution. Almost all the factions in the Palestine protests I've been to will chant, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." I mean, not everyone. There's their
Careful in the
RCP,
States,
RCI
buddy.
comrades.
Whoa. Oh boy, that's a terrorist statement if you're an American, just letting you know.
Yeah. So most of the Palestine movement have identified that the two-state solution is a dead end, but unfortunately, you can't quite say that for the Communist Party of Canada. Maybe some of their new members are trying to change that. I would be really happy to see that, but unfortunately, a lot of these sort of legacy left organizations are stuck with their sort of policies that they've inherited from the past. And I would say that that's also true with the smaller, even, let's be honest, even smaller of the two capital C communist parties, the Marxist-Leninists, the MLPC. They don't call for the two-state solution, which is good, but I looked at their platform, and like, by reading their platform, you would have no idea that this is a socialist organization. They don't talk about
You're a Communist Party.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't talk about like workers, control of the means of production, or even like democratic public ownership, that sort of thing. Their whole idea is they want Canada to be a modern nation state with a constitution that's like comes about by the collective action of the people. I read
Not
some of
the
their
working class, no,
Right.
but the people. Okay, yikes.
Yeah, I read a bunch of their articles. They talk about the people this, the people that. We need to foster the power of we need a constitution that's by the people. We need a modern state that's from the people. It's like, well, which people, right? The working
Yeah.
class or the capitalists?
I mean,
Or both?
billionaires are people, corporations are people too, at least in the States. But yeah, that's, oh God, Jesus, that's
Yeah.
bad.
So
Okay.
they talk about like multinational private interests, but they basically never talk about the domestic Canadian bourgeoisie. Canada is divided, as I'm sure we all know, Canada is divided into classes. And yeah, we have a lot of multinational firms here in Canada, although we also have a pretty nasty Canadian ruling class too. And unfortunately, I can't say that the MLPC's platform or many of their articles have that sort of class against class perspective. It's like the people against the multinationals or the cabal. They even use the term cabal, which I find is strange.
Yeah. Another piece from your article too that I really liked, and this is something that I've seen the left fail on this. I know there's some other, left groups, maybe a couple of Trotskyist groups or former Trotskyist groups who, and this isn't, but like, honestly, about the Ukraine-Russian war, a lot of them came on the side of NATO, sending troops to, having NATO intervene, or that was some of the us. But then you had like some on the far right who were like, stop sending weapons, all weapon shipments must stop. Let's stop the war, stop the war. The far right got a lot of credibility in that. And this leads into the article here when it said, today, it's absolutely essential that the left doesn't simply cheerlead government policies like counter tariffs, because when it sunk in that we're, quote, not on all this together last time, it was the far right anti-vaxxers who benefited because they were the only ones visibly opposing the government's big business friendly COVID policies. Like, that's how they accidentally get, like, they get that street cred. Like, oh, you know what? Like, yeah, we had PPP loans in the States where like corporations, they said they were small businesses, but you had like Shake Shack, other corporations getting millions of dollars of interest-free government loans, then they have to pay back. And like, it was like the weird right that was like, that's not fair. And because they were saying it more loudly and clearly. That's why they got credit in Canada. And same thing too. Like if you're against the war, which all of us on the left were, neither side, we don't support either side on this. Like clearly we want the soldiers to turn the guns on the other way and take out the people who sent them off to war. But like that's the thing. And like I think now, how did the far right gain I know it's been a while. I'm not pivoting to the Canadian truckers, but is there a lasting legacy of the right? Is that still popular? Some of those ideas and stuff that like they're the real rebel. They're the real rebels. They're going against the government. Is that crazy shit still kind of lingering around at all?
I mean, I think Pierre Poilievre, the conservative leader, successfully absorbed them back into the Conservative Party. Like, there for a little bit there was some risk of the Conservatives splitting the right wing vote with Maxime Bernier's People's Party of Canada, which sounds like it should be a left wing party, but it's not.
Yeah.
Turns out most, especially Anglo-Canadian right-wingers aren't going to vote for a francophone like Bernier, and with a heavy Quebecois accent. But Pierre Poilievre, his name is Pierre, but he was able to bring a lot of these right-wing populists back into the more mainstream conservative party. Like he went down to the freedom, the so-called Freedom Convoy in Ottawa. I believe he brought them Timbits, which is the Canadian version of Munchums, I guess.
Munchkins, we call them.
Munchkins,
Yes. See, Aaron, Ben respects my culture. Thank you, Ben. We Americans do appreciate that. Timbits. Come on. All right. Don't worry, we'll change that soon enough. But thank you, Ben, for respecting my culture. I appreciate that. But that's sad.
Whatever.
Jesus,
munch on these bits.
Oh, woo, Aaron, spicy take. All right. That's okay. Our Munchkin re-education camp will be up soon enough, Aaron. You'll never even heard of a quote unquote Timbit after this. I'm sorry. Aaron and I have this like blood feud over Dunkin' Donuts and Tim Hortons. I'm sorry about that. To the Left Opposition podcast listeners, you probably already know about this, but I will not give up 1 inch on my proud, more New England, not American, but a proud New England tradition where we are here. But all right,
call me a traitor, but I'll be the first Canadian to say that Tim Hortons sucks.
Folks, you heard it here first on the Left Opposition podcast. The first chink in the armor. Here we go. It is it. We've got it. We've got an opening. This is amazing. All right, Aaron. Aaron, let's lower the flag.
Not the first time you split. Yeah, this podcast.
This is like the revolution betrayed for Aaron right now.
There we go. Thank you. Someone is a Duncan supremacist in this group, other than the rest of us. Very good.
It wouldn't be a Trotskyist get together if we didn't split at least once or twice.
No, it
before
wouldn't
the end
be.
of the night.
It wouldn't be.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Come on. Talk about bland coffee. Ugh, what is that? That's not that coffee.
It's $2 and it's fine.
It's $2.
fine.
It's not fine. That's it. Now you have, on the other hand, do not give yourself a thumbs up praising your coffee on the emojis list here. We don't do that here. Okay.
Those are real dollars.
Thank you. Yeah, I like my $3.89 coffee at Dunkin' Donuts. It's delicious. Thank you, folks. So, all right. Also, Dunkin' Donuts, give us some free Timbits, please. Help us out. All right. Whatever you want, we'll do it for money. Thank you. All right. And the last thing, going back to your article, Ben, another piece I liked here too. We can't acquiesce to the nationalist mood because, as we've seen, that mood is easily weaponized by Bay Street parties. It'll be necessary to swim against the stream for the time being, even if we're in the minority. During this period, we can prepare for struggles ahead by educating ourselves and sharing revolutionary ideas, planting seeds for when the patriotic fervor wears off. This should also involve collaborating with other socialist and working class organizations in our areas of shared interest, to learn from each other and debate what strategies need to win, and making of all our politics better as a result. I like that a lot. Earlier when we started off, we were just talking about how certain groups don't work. Oh, those are Trotskyites. We don't work with them. Oh, those are I mean, and Aaron and I, we've done, if you've done union organizing or you do any kind of organizing, you're gonna, when I first came around to organizing, it was around the Iraq War. I'm older. It was mostly anarchists and like there was Maoists and like none of that shit really mattered because we were organizing together. And I got to have a good impression of, I'm friends with a few anarchists still to this day. Like we do need to work with each other, because we have a common enemy right now. And I really like to see that talked about because a lot of, you get some groups like the Spartacist League or whatever who just spend endless time denouncing groups. I mean, like we dunk on them. Like we do too. That's fine. That's normal. But like, I won't not organize with them. Like I have problems with the Socialist Equality Party, but if someone's organizing a rally for Palestine and they're in their SEP, I'll work. I don't care. I'll work with them and maybe we'll learn a little bit. Maybe I won't talk about unions with them because it's terrible, but their stance on the Ukraine-Russia war is solid and we're doing the right thing. So I really like that. And yeah, we have to be against the stream. Sometimes being right means we're going to be alone for a bit, because eventually you're right, this mood will change. That will happen. This stuff will end. I mean, I think in a long enough timeline, if this tariff war goes on, I do think Canada will not win this economic war really. The United States is the biggest economy in the world. I know in the States here, in my town where I'm from, we have like a brewery and they're talking about how those Canadian imports are going to mess up all their aluminum cans. Like that's going to hurt their businesses. That's going to be big. But I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Canadian economy is very geared towards servicing the United States economy. If I'm right, roughly. Like,
oh yeah.
So
yeah.
right.
Oil,
So in the
oil
end,
and steel and automotives is like all of our
right, and that's mostly
it all goes
so
to
like
the States.
Yeah. So I think like it maybe for a short time you might be okay, but on a long term, right? You're not going to win. I mean, not you. We're all working class. We have no nation, but like Canada's not going to win this one long enough, right?
Yeah. Well, we as the working class are definitely gonna lose because the whole both the liberal and the conservative strategy, and unfortunately to a large extent what the NDP want to do by imposing counter tariffs is by making the working class pay for the trade war. It's not rich people like Mark Carney who are going to be suffering because of the tariffs or counter tariffs. It's going to be working class folks like us.
I'll be paying more for the beer. Like I like that brewery. It's in my town. Now I will be paying more to drink the beer. Like that's the thing. I lose there, but like, and who wins? Not me. I'm an American working class, but it's So yeah, good point.
Doug Ford took Kentucky bourbon off the shelves of the LCBO. These are hard times. We need some
already
bourbon.
been paid for, right? So what's that going to do, right? I mean,
I know
it's not like it's stopped.
Just give it out for free. Actually, that'd be a hell of a. That'd be a hell of a.
That'd be a hell of a party.
Protest.
Oh my God, free bourbon.
Just hand it out.
Bourbons and circuses, right?
Oh my God, yeah. Oh man, I'm on board for that.
Anyway, I think long story short, I think Canada should join BRICS, and maybe China will finish our Eglinton LRT for us.
That is awesome.
That's a Toronto joke for our Toronto viewers.
I should join BRICS.
I actually helped. I only worked there for a year, but I worked to help build the Eglinton LRT, and I got to see how much of a disaster it is. So
it's a 14-year project and it's not finished, and it's like $1 billion
like Canada's
over budget.
high-speed rail, same thing. Yeah,
it's very slow.
Oh, just like the Boston MBTA. Good God.
Yeah, they made a bunch of concessions to benefit property developers. Surprise, surprise, but not to get us too off topic.
But I really like how this piece ends, Ben, with taking the essence of that united front, not just unity for the sake of unity. It's people complain all the time, oh, how come the left can't unify? I think in part it is because like I do have organizational and philosophical differences with a lot of left groups, but at the same time, when there's a job to be done, absolutely I will call these people comrades, and as long as we're on the same side of the barricade. Right. But that united front, it takes it a step further and says, in this struggle together, we may win them over to our side, or they might show that their methods are better, and this is how the left learns to organize better. And it's this dialectical process, and I think Ben, you captured it perfectly.
Thanks. Yeah. It can sometimes feel kind of lonely being people who say, yeah, we're not going to be able to like still too much strategic difference for us to just unite into one organization, try and sweep all those distant differences under the rug, like, important issues like the Ukraine-Russia war, trans rights, that sort of thing. Like, we don't want to just, go along with the majority with that. We still want to keep on an independent banner on stuff like that. But that doesn't mean that we can't collaborate with each other on some projects. Like for example, here in Toronto, we have our Labor May Day Committee, which, by the way, if you're in the Greater Toronto area, you should definitely join. Even if you're out there in Hamilton, you should definitely come by to Toronto on May the 3rd. We're bringing May Day, International Workers' Day traditions to English Canada. It's a thing in Quebec, but we want it to be a thing here. And there's a bunch of different groups on the May Day committee, including groups that I have important differences with. But just because we might have a difference, here or there, doesn't mean that we can't work together and put on a big May Day rally.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's almost like march separately but strike together. Someone great might have said that once, but yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that's great. If people wanted to get in contact with you up in Canada, do you have a website? Is there any ways you can do? Do you have a Twitter page, MySpace, or whatever you guys are into up there?
Yeah. So, well, just on the May Day committee, check out May 1 Labor. That's labor with a U, by the way.
Oh, you lost us. That's a Canadian. Okay, good. This is not for us Americans. All right.
May1labor.org for the May Day committee. And to check out our little group, the Marxist Workers Group, we just formed like 2 years ago or so. We're just finding our feet, essentially figuring out our politics. But if you want to check us out, marxistworker.ca. We have a website with articles. We have a link to our Discord server there. You can come join the Discord server and chat with us. And yeah, we'd love to hear where folks are coming from. We'd love to hear different people's perspectives.
Awesome. All right. Thank you very much, Ben, for coming on. Any other last remarks or anything before we head off at all? If none. All right. Thank you. Yeah, Aaron.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Ben. I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Please come back. This has been great.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah,
that was
been
awesome.
Great.
Really. Yes. So awesome.
Yeah,
Hopefully we'll see you again. Keep writing. Write another one next week. We'll put you on every goddamn week. I don't care. This was great. This is good.
Yeah.
I mean, you already like Dunkin' Donuts. I know you're a good character. That's it. You already got Aaron pissed at that. This is the greatest interview I've ever done in my life. This is finally.
I said Tim Hortons is bad. I didn't say Dunkin' Donuts.
Oh. Okay. Right. Thanks, Ben. We will see you next maybe in a month or so. Okay, Ben. 1 step forward, 2 steps back, comrade.
It's like Kautsky's position in the middle.
This is it. We're having a united front. You know what? You're right. I'm going to use Ben's example. We may not see eye to eye on Dunkin' Donuts, and that's okay. But we have a united front distaste for quote unquote that watered down coffee known as Tim Hortons, and that is no good. So, all right, there we go. We have something to go on.
Well, thanks so much for inviting me on. This has been great. You guys are my favorite Trotskyist podcast in Canada, which I hope isn't damning from faint praise. But
that's great. I do. Good. I do take that socialist action. Yeah, I don't know if they have one, but whatever.
I think there's literally like one or two others. Like there's not that many.
We're number one, Aaron. That's all he said. No, we're number one. That's it. First out of 2 people. All right, we did it. So, all right, awesome.
Well, thanks so much.
All right, great. Thanks a lot, Ben. Thanks for coming on. All right. For anyone else who wants to get in contact with our show, or if you want to reach out, if you're a group out there, or you know a good article you want to share with us, please send us an email at theLeftOppositionPodcast@gmail.com. We also have a Facebook, Live Journal, Twitter. I don't have Twitter. I don't do that anymore. But yeah, just send us an email. Yeah. So any other last remarks, Aaron, Ben, or Joe before Joe, how has the firefighters, have they come to rescue you?
I am out, but the cops blocked like half the streets on my way home. So
okay.
Took me like an extra 20 minutes.
Okay. There must have been a child with a Palestinian flag marching by. That's probably why they're out there. So thank God. Okay. All right. Ben or Aaron, anything else for the show to say goodbye?
No, but I think I found a song. I found a song to play us out on.
If it's gonna be a guy who's over the age of 85 years old, I'm gonna say
most likely it's a Utah Phillips song.
Don't you like, I don't know, Sabrina Carpenter or like Taylor Swift or anybody who was born prior to like World War One?
No,
good God. You play Maple Leaf Rag as a good intro. All right. What 1923 song do we have now?
A strike
Good
by the
God.
Canadian Northern Railway workers along the Fraser River inspired Joe Hill of the IWW to write "Where the
You
Fraser
got
River
lucky.
Flows."
That's fine. All right, good. All right, we'll play that out. All right. Okay.
And
Guy
was
shot during World War One.
And this was 1912.
Oh shit.
All right, yeah. I'll
Yes,
write
thank
her
you,
a letter.
Joe.
Okay, there we
I
go.
have no idea what you said. All I
Joe
heard
from a
is
string and can.
all I hear is.
Charlie Brown's parents are on the line.
All right, fuck you guys. Good night.
Wow.
Did you hear that?
Fuck you, Charlie Brown. You're an idiot. All right, thanks. No noise. All sad all the time. Wow. All right. Well, for those of us who are not stuck in the well, this has been great. We'll see you maybe a week or two. Yeah, we love you. We see you. We hear you. We are the Left Opposition Podcast. All right, everyone. Thank you. To our fans on the Twitch stream, thank you very much. What would a Taylor Swift Union ballad be called? That is a great question. Timeless. I don't know. Just maybe that'd be it. But I can't. I'm too late for me. I had a long day. But all right, everyone. See you all next week or 2 weeks from now. Whatever. Keep up the fight. Keep up the struggle, and we'll see you then.
Where the Fraser River flows, each fellow worker knows. They have bullied and oppressed us, but still our union grows. And we're gonna find a way, boys, for shorter hours and higher pay, boys. And we're gonna win the day, boys, where the Fraser River flows. Fellow workers, pay attention to what I'm gonna mention, for it is the clear contention of the workers of the world that we should all be ready, true-hearted, brave, and steady, to rally round the standard when the red flag is unfurled. Where the Fraser River flows, each fellow worker knows. They have bullied and oppressed us, but still our union grows. And we're gonna find a way, boys, shorter hours and higher pay, boys. And we're gonna win the day, boys, where the Fraser River flows. All these gunny sack contractors have all been dirty actors.